everyone. My name is Nicola Porto. I'm the Director of Engagement for Collaboration Project, and I am pleased to sit down and talk today with Lloyd Biddle. He is the Senior Associate Pastor for High Point Church here in Madison, as well as a board member for Collaboration Project. Lloyd, thank you for sitting down with me for a few minutes, and we look forward just to getting to know you better, as well as seeing what collaboration you've had the opportunity to witness in our city.
My great pleasure to be here with you.
So first, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about you. I think sometimes we see these faces around our city, but we don't really know the story. So
Yeah,
where are you from? How'd you end
yeah,
up in Madison?
yeah. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I end up in Madison when I came to work at the headquarters for American Family Insurance. Prior to going to the pastorate, I was 20 years at American Family as an agent, a sales manager, sales director, and I came to Madison specifically to take a job in marketing. And so my family moved up in 2006, and we joined High Point Church as just members. We stayed the entire distance, and I worked at American Family and finished my career there as a director in 2013, and immediately came into my current job as the senior associate pastor at High Point Church.
Wow. All right.
There was a little bit of a story in between that. Um, in churches in Illinois, I served at smaller churches that had a senior pastor and an assistant, and so they had to rely very heavily on volunteers to do everything, like from running Awanas to preaching and all kinds of leadership. And so in probably it was 2000, in the year 2000, my church in Illinois, Waukegan Baptist Bible, licensed me as a minister. And in that tradition, you first become licensed and then you become ordained. And so I was licensed as a minister then, and had been preaching in the churches, and then going to school at Wheaton College, starting there. So my formal education was a undergrad BS in finance from the University of Illinois, an MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern, and starting in 2000, I went to Wheaton College for a master's in theology, and I was raising my family, working 50 hours a week at a very competitive job, serving at the church, and I wouldn't go back to those years for anything. But
Static and full.
yeah, it was really full. But anyway, that's the backstory. So just so you say, the Lord didn't just flip a switch, and I went from being a businessman to it was a long process, a lot of training and so forth. But when I got to Madison, um, I joined High Point Church, uh, got on the elder board, and we were at a point in our trajectory when we needed to hire another pastor for adults. And it just so happened I had just completed my master's in theology at Wheaton in 2012. In 2012 and 13, we were recruiting for a senior associate pastor, and I ended up getting a job. So that's kind of what got me into my current situation.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
wasn't so much 0 to 10 as it was the Lord slowly, working you
Over
in.
the years.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, we are grateful for you to be a board member for Collaboration Project.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how did you end up on the board? What
Yeah.
motivated you to join?
John Anderson and our paths would cross when he served at Door Creek as the outreach pastor. I did a similar kind of thing at High Point without that title,
Sure.
and I would rally our people to serve in the community. In particular, John would be convening members of churches with the public schools in Madison, and he would have meetings with leaders and teachers and so forth, principals. And I'm really passionate about that work, and High Point has been very involved in that work for 5 or 6 years. And so that's how we started connecting. So about twice or three times a year, we would connect in meetings, talk about how churches could partner with the public schools. So when John went into this new work at Collaboration Project, it was I understood what he was doing from his days at Door Creek, and it was kind of a natural a transition for me to understand his mission and to get involved in that work as a board member.
Awesome. What is a story of collaboration you have seen
Yeah,
work as a local pastor in Dane County,
yeah,
and something that's left you hopefully encouraged?
yeah. So with COVID-19 and its extraordinary impact on the African American community and the Latino community, with much higher rates of positive testing, especially in Milwaukee, but across the state, much higher positive tests, much higher rates of death, given their low percentages of people in the state. I think African Americans about 6% of people in the state. Latinos somewhere around the same, but their deaths are percentages are much higher in relation to COVID. So that dynamic, and then on the heels of that, with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and um, Amy Cooper, Christian Cooper, in that incident. So that avalanche of social and justice type issues created really a lot of tension, especially in the African American community, that had boiled over nationally with protesting positively and negatively with the looting and so forth. And so the African American pastors here in Madison, especially the African American Council of Churches, um, felt like they needed to do some things, and they wanted to rally the community to support it. And behind the scenes, there were some really interesting discussions between white evangelicals, Latino evangelicals, African American evangelicals about what to do specifically about racism. And many African American pastors are like, these instances continue to happen. Eric Gardner, I think back to 1991 in LA with Rodney King. The police chief says abuse, this excessive force, and all the officers are exonerated. Eric Gardner, the homicide, the medical examiners say homicide, and all the officers get off. That's 2014. So for a long time, there's this history of unnecessary force resulting in death, and then silence among white evangelicals, complete silence. And so, but this time was different. And there were tough conversations were had, and a decision was made to produce a statement that kind of confessed America's sin of racism, and the churches, if it's not direct complicit, they're indirect complicit support for racism, as it were. Anyway, and 60 churches that normally wouldn't sign such a document, including my own church and all of its elders, um, Door Creek, Black Hawk, Lighthouse, all kinds of churches. And so, which culminated in the largest peaceful protest march being the Black Lives Matters march. Reportedly 10,000 Madisonians came out for a day of prayer and peaceful protest. That was historic. And I was so delighted to actually be there, to be a part of it. Not that I agreed with every speech that was given,
Sure.
but that the fact that there was enough unity in the church to make that the biggest, most positive demonstration over this entire span in the city of Madison is something that only God could bring together.
Right.
And I know the pastors had behind the scenes had really difficult conversations to get together on this. And so anyway, that was probably one of the most precious examples of church collaboration that I've seen. And since I've been here in Madison in 14 years, very impressive to see how God navigated that, and the humility that was necessary in order to make that happen.
That gives me chills just hearing the way you retell the story as we remember and really consider what was being put together in that space.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. It is.
Yeah.
It feels like only God could
Yes.
make this happen, which is the stories we want to keep seeing and telling of
Yeah.
stories that only God could put
Can
together.
do. Amen. So God is moving, God is working, and there is a lot of optimism from all fronts
Yeah.
that the church is going to be a catalyst for unity, not only among Christians, also in American society, as we should. If anybody should be able to break down spiritual barriers uh, between races and cultures, we are uniquely equipped by a gospel that brings together Jews and Gentiles in Jesus's blood. We're uniquely equipped to do that by creating a new family, right? And so I feel like we're at the table where we ought to be, and with the right humility and mindset to be able to help America deal with this ancient and peculiar sin of racism. So yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, Lloyd, I'm so grateful for you just sitting down with me this morning and sharing a little bit more about yourself, but also where you see God at work.
Yeah.
My hope and prayer is that this will leave others encouraged, but also you as you remember what God is up to. So thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye bye.